Hey, hey, welcome in. Sorry for the little delay there. I got everybody that knows me knows I got my dog here. Tied up with her for a second. Somebody's already asked me how my dog's doing. Touch on that in a minute. Welcome in Monday Live. It is that week. Clemson, Florida State. No more tune-ups for the Tigers. It gets real right now. That season opening loss to Duke. That means no more margin for error. If you have any playoff aspirations. You can't drop another game, period. You have to win out. It's been a long time since, well, I take that back because Clemson lost to Georgia a couple of years ago. But it's been a long time since Clemson was an underdog at home. Let's put it that way. You have to go all the way back to 2016, Louisville. I'm pretty sure that's the last time Clemson was an underdog at home. It's not happened very often in the Dabo Swinney era, period. So some rarefied air this weekend with Florida State coming in here as a favorite. Bet Online's got them favored by 1.5. So it's not like there's some like Clemson's some huge underdog or anything. Anybody that watched Florida State last weekend, there may be some vulnerabilities there. Noon game up there in Boston. That they're going to play a noon game on the road again this weekend. They kind of got off to a slow start, recovered, went up 31-10, but then let them back in. It made some mistakes, including the scoop and score. Let Boston College get back in that thing. We'll see if they get off to a slow start this week. A lot of interesting matchups in this one. I got to admit, I feel a lot better about this game right now than I did right after the Charleston Southern game. If you asked me right then, I probably would have said Florida State comes in here and blows Clemson's doors off. I don't feel that way anymore. I think this is going to be a battle. I think it's going to be like a heavyweight fight. I don't know how you guys are feeling about it. That's how I feel about it. After watching Clemson in the third quarter against Charleston Southern, kind of let that carry over to Florida Atlantic, I feel a lot better about their offense. A lot better about their offense. I know the third quarter was kind of a lull, but they started rolling in a bunch of different guys in that third quarter. The fact that they came out, no mistakes, didn't turn the ball over early, no self-inflicted wounds that cost you points or anything, or gives the other team points. I think they needed a game like that, and they got one. So, kind of going into this one on a high, if you ask me. I thought Cade Klubnik looked, pretty solid from the start, and that's not been the case so far this season. Didn't get off to the best of starts against Charleston Southern. Didn't get off to the best of starts against Duke. came out clicking against Florida Atlantic. He'll need to do that again this weekend. He was pretty clear today they were going to have to take advantage of every possession. Not sure they're going to score on every possession, but you kind of know what he meant there. We'll see. We shall see. I think we're going to get a good one. And since somebody's asked me about my dog, I'm gonna go ahead and answer that. I appreciate you asking about my dog. She's a Basset Hound. Her name is Penelope. We call her Penny. She had surgery Wednesday. She had to have a big mass. She had a mammary mass that was almost dragging the ground. It took me weeks to find somebody who can do it. She had it cut out Wednesday. Took her today to have the drain removed. She's doing pretty good. She is not happy though because she's got to wear one of those things around her neck where she can't get to it and chew on it and stuff. But you know, she's a tough old broad, man, and she's been through some stuff. We rescued her a few years ago. We were told that by the old man we got her from that his son brought her to his house, left her there. She'd been in his backyard for about a year. Come to find out, she was about 7 or 8 years old. She'd been back there in that pen all by herself for probably 7 or 8 years. Anyways, y'all ain't here to listen to me talk about my dog. She's doing great, man. Appreciate you asking. She goes back to get the sutures removed 2 weeks from Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken. Look who is with us tonight. Does that name look familiar to you guys? He's changed it from Jeff to Jeffrey. He's trying to fool y'all. But this right here, I'm just kidding, man. I'm just kidding. It's not that Jeff Scott, but this right here, I think is going to be one of the biggest storylines. How does Clemson's corners match up against Keon Coleman and Johnny Wilson? Johnny Wilson's like 6'7". He is a big dude. Every team's going to have trouble covering him. He's going to make plays. You're going to have to limit him. I like Nate Wiggins' chances against anybody, to be quite honest. I think he is evolving into that kind of cover guy. The other side of the field, I don't have as much confidence in those guys as I do Wiggins, but I really like Jaden Lucas, and Sheridan Jones has been solid. I think the pass defense has been pretty solid so far, particularly when the starters are in. This is an aspect that Dabo Swinney mentioned specifically during the offseason that had to drastically improve, and it's going to finally get tested for real Saturday. But I think this is one of the biggest storylines going into this game. Clemson's secondary against those dynamic wide receivers Florida State has. Anybody saw that tweet Keon Coleman put out? I don't know if it was today or yesterday. A cryptic tweet with the 3 footballs. I forgot who it was, but somebody else did that. Either Saturday or last Saturday. I can't remember who it was. And they did it. It's in reference to how many targets he had, because he only had like 3 targets against Boston College. Is he already getting frustrated? That is a chance you take when you build your roster through the portal. You don't know how all those guys are going to gel. That's kind of how I took that tweet, that he was frustrated with his lack of targets Saturday. Maybe that means he gets 3 times as many this week, or maybe that means he comes in here still a little frustrated. We shall see. But I do think this is a big part of this matchup, how those corners, fare against those playmaking wide receivers Florida State's going to bring in here. Anything to talk about on the kicking side tonight? I was told this morning, I think somebody told me that T.I.'s got all the specifics, but I was told this morning that Dabo was bringing somebody in, and that they might very well be the guy that runs out there first Saturday, depending on the situation and the distance and all that good stuff. I never got a name. somebody told me that the guys over at TI are saying it's Whites, who was here last year, and he's still taking online classes or something. I've not heard a name, but somebody told me. Somebody posted. I saw somebody posted it on Facebook and tagged me that those TI guys are reporting that. Hey, those guys, if they're saying it, you can about bank on it. Um, I think it's a good move though. Let's face it, Robert Gunn struggled, and you don't really have anybody else. If Aiden Swanson's your backup, Aiden Swanson's been done. He's played fairly well, punting the ball, right? He's been consistent. He's had a pretty good start to the season. So when I say this, I'm not saying it to knock him. But if Aiden Swanson's your backup, that's trouble if your starter is struggling. Swanson had some experience kicking in high school, but not he's been at Clemson for what, 3 years now, 4 years maybe. He doesn't do that anymore, or he doesn't work on that a lot anymore. He's solely been a punter. Imagine he's been working on it some here of late, but he doesn't do it a whole lot anymore, or he didn't do it a whole lot before recently. So that's kind of scary if you're thinking about running Aiden Swanson out there as your field goal kicker. So I think it's a good move. I think it was something that needed to be done. They needed to see if they could find a kicker somewhere, because let's face it, Gunn has struggled with his kicks, his field goal kicks in particular. He's just not getting them up high enough. The one he missed the other day, I think it was the extra point. Man, he pushed that thing bad. I mean, it wasn't even close, and it was the extra point. You got to make those, and this is one of those games that could come down to a field goal. You got to be able to depend on your kicker. I mean, they needed to do something to address that spot. There's a walk-on Clemson's got who is a place kicker that I think just joined the team before fall camp, and I can't remember his name, and I don't know anything about him. I was wondering if, maybe he would get a shot, because I've heard Quinn Kastner hadn't been very good, or he hadn't been very consistent. And he's a little guy. Anyways, he doesn't have the strong leg. He's not going to go out there and kick them from 45, 50 yards, maybe inside 40. But the other guy, I cannot remember his name off the top of my head, but they got another walk-on. Maybe they don't have a lot of confidence in him either if they're going to get somebody else, though. But yeah, I think it was something that needed to be done. Absolutely, man. Mike gets in and says, hope is a dangerous thing. Yeah. I mean, if you don't believe in yourselves, then you don't have a chance. You got to go in confident. You got to go in believing you can do it. Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Only thing that bothers me is that FSU's defense is strong up front, and at linebacker, even versus FAU. Cade didn't experiment much with long throws. Yeah, they have not thrown the ball down the field a ton. It's been a lot of short, intermediate stuff, behind the line of scrimmage stuff, and I kind of share that sentiment. I was kind of hoping we'd see them try to push the ball down the field a little bit more, if for no other reason, just to work on it a little bit against FAU. Didn't do it as much as I was hoping they would. Maybe they just didn't want to show much, but yeah, I think that's a valid concern. They have not thrown the ball down the field a lot. Most of their longer passing plays have been on yards after the catch. Did like what Garrett Riley said today about maybe getting Tyler Brown and Antonio Williams on the field at the same time. I'm sure that means moving Antonio outside. But those are two of your most reliable guys at receiver right now. They need to be on the field at the same time, and Brown's a guy that can stretch the field for you. But yeah, I agree. Cade did not do a whole lot of throwing the ball down the field. Not at all. So yeah, I feel where you're coming from with that one. Kendrick says, I think we had to start Parker because it seems like he's the only one who can get pressure. Gonna need that. I feel like Parker needs to be on the field. Yeah, whether he runs out there first or not, to me, that doesn't make much difference. If he's playing starter snaps, that's what matters, in my opinion. Whether he runs out first is irrelevant. But yeah, I agree, man. He was the best defensive end on the field Saturday. That includes Xavier Thomas, in my eyes, and I didn't think it was close, to be quite honest. He has been outstanding in all 3 games. Now, you don't have to convince me that he needs to be on the field. And Clemson's had some problems pressuring and finishing on the, when it comes to getting to the quarterback. Sometimes even when they get some pressure, they don't finish. Go back to that Riley Leonard run against, in Durham. When you get to him, you got to finish, and that's going to be key Saturday. You can't let Jordan Travis sit back there in that pocket and get comfortable. You've got to put pressure on him. And when you get back and when you get to him, you got to bring him down. And one thing they absolutely have to do is set the edge, and they were not very good at that against Duke. I don't think that's one of Justin Masco's strong suits. TJ Parker has shown that he is able to do that without question. So, yeah, I agree 100%. He's got to be on the field. I mean, whether he runs out there first, it doesn't matter. As long as he's getting starter snaps, to me, that's all that matters. But he needs to be out there. Michael says, Johnny Wilson hears footsteps a lot, has some drops. I'm more worried about Jaheim Bell. Yeah, hey, Jaheim Bell can be a matchup problem. The former South Carolina tight end. Yeah, he's dynamic too. He doesn't get talked about a lot, I guess, because he's not a receiver and he's a tight end, but he's absolutely a matchup problem. You're going to see how they, game plan to cover him, because he's going to be a target in the passing game. You just know it. So you gotta have a plan for him. It'd be interesting to see what they do with him. Because earlier when we were talking about Florida State's passing game, I just mentioned the 2 receivers, Wilson and Keon Coleman, but I should have mentioned Jaheim Bell too, because he's a big part of that. Been asked this 5 times already today. Will Andrew Mukuba be up to speed Saturday? I don't know, man. We'll see. I'm not 100% confident he's going to be back by Saturday. That thing might be a little bit more than they letting on. Might be a little bit. I don't know. I'm not convinced he's going to be back Saturday. Having said that, if he's not, I think Khalil Barnes proved that, he can step up and fill in on a moment's notice, no problem. Competition amps up big time. I mean, I understand all that, but I think Khalil Barnes is going to, and he's going to be really good. Talk about a guy that was underrated coming out of high school. I think he was vastly underrated. He's versatile. You can do a lot of different things with him. You've already seen him using him a couple different ways. But if Mukuba can't go, that's going to be putting a lot on a first-year freshman. But I do think Barnes has the football IQ to be able to handle it. He got burned the other night against Florida Atlantic. They didn't hit the pass on him, but he got beat. Just comes right back, man. Just flushed it, comes right back. I think you'll be fine if you have to go with Barnes. There's the dude, man. The dude. I want to take a moment and remind everybody, if you have not hit that subscribe button, please do so. That helps us keep doing these things, putting this content out on YouTube. Everybody that's already subscribed, we very much appreciate it. Don't forget to go. We got a new thing over at the website. We're going to start putting exclusive content. It's called Death Valley Domain. Going to start putting exclusive content. It's going to be $4.99 a month, so it's going to be cheap. All the recruiting stuff's going to go there. A lot of Brad's insights, pregame, postgame, are going to go there. You'll get your money's worth. I promise you that. Especially as we start getting towards signing day. Clemson starts trying to put a bow on this recruiting class. Big recruiting weekend coming up this weekend. Big recruiting weekend. Going to be a lot of 2025 targets in town. Going to be a handful of 2024 guys in town. A couple of offensive linemen. So I would advise checking that out. Again, $4.99 a month, or you can sign up for a year and get it at a discounted price, $49.99, I think. But that's where all the recruiting stuff's going to be at going forward. Not too bad. $4.99 is not that bad. That also helps us keep doing this. Can Clemson run the ball consistently against a team such as Florida State? Need the running game to set up the pass. Boston College ran it against Florida State Saturday. If Boston College can run it against them, I don't see why Clemson can't. They had some success running against Florida State Saturday. I actually looked up those numbers before I jumped on here, so I'd have them in my head, and now I've already forgotten them just that quickly. But I want to say they rushed for like 160 something yards. 152 yards. That's. I think if somebody tells you right now Clemson's going to rush for 152 yards there, I think you probably feel pretty good about that. Let's see. The quarterback, that to me, that's going to be key. How much damage can Clubman K do with his legs? Boston College quarterback ran for 95 yards in that game. He ran 16 times. Their running back had 21 carries for 64 yards. So, just about 3 yards per carry. If Clemson's going to win, I think Cade has to be the wild card. Cade's legs. Haven't seen a whole lot of that. Go back to when Trevor Lawrence was quarterback. When Clemson played Florida Atlantic or teams like Florida Atlantic or Citadel or Wofford or, teams that were not nearly as talented, or when Clemson was heavily favored or they got up big, you didn't see a lot of design runs for Trevor. But in the big games, like in the playoff or the ACC championship or a big regular season game, that's when you saw Clemson go to the QB run a little bit more. Maybe that's something we see this week. Maybe we see them start using Cade a little bit more in the running game, because I think you're going to have to. I think Cade has to be a part of the game plan when it comes to the rushing attack if Clemson's going to win. I don't think you can sit there and just hand it off to Shipley and Maffa and keep pounded against that Florida State defensive front and expect to rush for 150, 200 yards. It's not going to happen. They're too good. They're too talented up front. You got to make them account for the quarterback. Parker is going to be a problem. I will say he is getting more 1-versus-1 than XT. Parker's already a problem. There ain't no he is going to be. He's already a problem. I don't know how many one-on-ones he's getting compared to XT. XT was getting plenty of one-on-ones Saturday. XT's kind of getting pushed around when in the run blocking, in the run game. It's getting pushed around a little bit. I hate to say it, but that's just the brutal truth. I hadn't seen Parker get pushed around a whole lot in the run game. Now, I got to ask before the season that I think the weight that Thomas had lost would hurt him when it came to run blocking. And I said, I don't think so. I might have been wrong because he's gotten pushed around some in the run game. And he's not been getting to the quarterback the way a lot of people thought he would. He's I'm not saying he's not had any production or anything like that. I mean, he's just not hit that stride that most of us were expecting from him in this final year. Not yet, anyways. But yeah, I think TJ Parker's already a problem. Will the game slow down for Cade? He seems to still revert to high school tendencies when pressure sets in. I thought it looked slowed down for him Saturday. I thought he looked much better, far more relaxed, far more settled in. And from the jump, it didn't take till after halftime. I thought he was scanning the field, spreading the ball around. I thought he looked a lot better Saturday. I don't know exactly what you mean by still revert to high school tendencies when pressure sets in, and maybe talking about trying to throw it away when he should take a sack. Cade's a quarterback. He's going to take chances, period. I mean, that's just who he is. He's that guy. He's going to take chances. You're going to have to live with him throwing some interceptions. He needs to learn when to take a sack. And again, I thought he looked better Saturday. I don't remember off the top of my head outside of one, that he tried to get away with that he probably shouldn't have. But still, again, he's going to take chances. He's going to throw it in the coverage sometimes. He thinks he can make that throw. He's going to throw it in the coverage. That's just how much belief he's got in his arm. And it's not always going to work out. You're just going to have to live with those plays. Cade can mark the throws, but he definitely does not have the arm we are accustomed to having. No, he does not have the arm strength of Trevor Lawrence. No. But he can make most of the throws. That throw he made to Tyler Brown when he threw into the coverage in the second half in the end zone, I think it was in the end zone against Florida Atlantic Saturday night, and he came back and hit Tyler Brown on that third down. That was a throw not every quarterback can make. That was a hell of a throw. It was impressive. The only thing about Cade's throws is on his deep balls. He puts a little too much air under them sometimes, and it feels like the receiver has to wait on him to come down, or it allows the DB to catch up to a receiver that's got to step on him. I think that's something he needs to work on, and that's kind of something what I'm referencing when I say you don't have the arm strength of a Trevor Lawrence or a Deshaun Watson. But outside of that, I think Trevor's arm's been fine. He's made some impressive throws over the past two games that not every quarterback can make. I'm kind of with Sarian here. He says Cade's arm is plenty good for, throws of about up to 40 yards. And then once you get deeper in that, they kind of start arcing a bit and they got a little bit too much air under them. Outside of that, man, I think Cade's arms, I think he's got excellent arm strength, on the shorter intermediate throws and the throws under 40 yards, like Sarian's pointing out here. Who is the starter at left tackle? That's a good question. We shall see. I thought Colin Sadler played well starting at left tackle Saturday. I think Lee's mostly been solid. He's had some I mean, he's had a moment here and there where he's ended up on his rear end. We're talking about two young guys. It is what it is. You're having to replace a veteran over there that had been at Clemson a long time. I'm not sure who's going to start this week. I haven't even looked at the depth chart yet, but if I had to bet, it's probably going to say Tristan Lee or Colin Sadler. That would be what I would think it's going to say, and we might not know until later in the week. I thought Sadler played fairly well Saturday when his first start. Tickled Tiger says everyone praising O-line and passing down. Cade has pressure, escaped it, but this ain't FAU and Charleston Southern. I think the offensive line played better than they got credit for against Duke and against Charleston Southern. Outside of one guy, anyways. Maybe not so much last week. She also had Colin Sadler making his first start. Walker Parks didn't play. Mitchell Mays started. They did a lot of mixing and matching. So I kind of expected it not to be what it was. But yeah, this is going to be a good test. Whoever it is over there at left tackle is going to have their hands full. Jarrett Verse is one of the best pass rushers in the country. So this offensive line that we are going to find out about them and exactly where they are Saturday. There will be no more questions. Because again, I thought they played better than they were given credit for against Duke. I thought some of the stuff Cade did made them look like they was playing a little worse than they actually were. And I thought they played a little bit better against Charleston Southern than they were given credit for. But I didn't think they played as well Saturday. But no, this what's coming this week is not going to be Florida Atlantic, Charleston Southern. It gets real. It gets real right now. Right now. Clemson needs Walker Parks to be back. I expect he will be. From what I was told, he could have played Saturday night if it was Florida State Saturday night. But I remember when we were up in Durham, I don't know if everybody saw it, but right before the season started, when Clemson had the Beanie Bowl, there were reports coming out about Parks in a walking boot. And then the season opener there in Durham, when I saw him on the field right before the game, there was so much tape on his ankle. I have no idea I could even move around. They had him taped all up, both ankles. So not sure exactly where he is right now, but they need him back for this game, absolutely. Here's something else to keep an eye on. The dude says FSU will test Clemson's linebackers with backs out in the flats. Duke had a lot of success with it. Clemson's defense has gotten burned on passes out into the flats to the backs, and not just against Duke. It happened against Florida Atlantic Saturday a couple of times. That is somewhere they have been susceptible. That's something they have to get shored up before the weekend, because Florida State's got some backs that can the likes that Clemson's not seen yet. As good, as solid as what Duke has, they ain't got a Trey Benson. So that is something they've got to get shored up. It's been an issue, absolutely. Not getting beat by the backs out in the flats, or not getting beat on a wheel route. It's been an issue. Why has Brenningstool been so quiet? I was under the impression that he was going to be a big-time production player. I think we were all under that impression. Garrett Riley's offenses have always relied heavily on the tight ends. And Brenningstool is a friggin' nightmare, or a matchup nightmare for opposing defensive coordinators. I mean, he's 6'7", 6'8", or whatever it is. You talking about a big target over the middle of the field? That's him. But I haven't gone back and watched the Florida Atlantic game, so I didn't really watch a lot of Brenny Stool Saturday. So what I'm about to say does not pertain to Saturday. He did not play well against Duke at all. I mean, and that's being nice. His route running was horrendous. It was not much better against Charleston Southern. I thought it was a little bit better, not a whole lot better. I didn't watch him a lot Saturday, so I can't comment one way or the other. But that's a big part of why he's been so quiet. Because he's not getting open. His route running's not been very good. It's been sloppy. Period. Is this another 2013 FSU Jameis style beatdown, or does Clemson put together a complete game and make it close, come away with a dub? You know what? I can't answer that one for you, man. I got, what's the day? Monday. I got 3-4 more days where I got to make a prediction, and I'm gonna sleep on it a few more nights. I'll say this. I'll guarantee you I'm not going to be predicting a Florida State blowout. But I would be very surprised if Florida State came in here and blew Clemson's doors off. But it wouldn't just outright shock me. I mean, I'd be surprised, but I wouldn't be just outright shocked. I mean, we saw how sloppy this team can play up there in Durham. You do that this Saturday, and they're gonna blow your doors off. I mean, I fully expect this Florida State team is going to come in here motivated. I think they kind of got caught last Saturday up there in Boston, maybe looking ahead to this game a little bit. Maybe got caught with their pants down a little bit and just barely got out of there with a win. You're not going to be that fortunate this weekend. They're not going to be looking ahead to anybody else. I don't think you can depend on them having a slow start due to being the visiting team for a noon game. I think they're going to come out fired up. I think they're going to want to come out and prove that they are the superior team from the very first snap. Now, this is the game that's been circled for them all off season, ever since last year when Clemson got up to that big lead and they made that valiant comeback in the second half. They feel like they kind of let Clemson get away with one. In that first half, they feel like they didn't play well. They feel like they matched up better with Clemson last year than it looked. And they've only added more talent to this team. I mean, this is not going to be an easy contest. I don't know. I just don't know how this is going to play out. I said it at the top. I think this is going to be I think it's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be close. I think I said earlier it's going to be like a heavyweight fight. We'll see if Clemson's got enough haymakers to hang in there, if they can throw enough haymakers to hang in there. But going by what I watched Saturday, I mean, this Florida State team, they can be beat. You just got to take advantage of the areas in which they're vulnerable. Because I don't think their secondary is I don't think their secondary is elite by any stretch. I think they are prone to giving up the rushing yards to the quarterback. Now, I think there are some ways that Clemson can attack that defense and soften it up. Just got to execute and do it. Craig says Ship is going to go off this weekend. I think he's upset about not having any TDs, but he's averaging more yards per play than Benson, and that's with Muffa having his fair share. Yeah, I think we've all seen the little interaction between Shipley and CJ Spiller the other night. I'll be honest with you, I think that's been way overblown by a lot of the fans. I think it's much ado about nothing. Will Shipley is a fiery dude. He is an emotional dude. He wears his heart on his sleeve, and even on the field. Sometimes that's gonna, bleed over to the sidelines. It's gonna carry over to the sidelines. It's not always easy to shut it off as soon as the whistle blows. If Clemson can hit some plays down the field in the passing game and soften that defense up and get them playing off the line of scrimmage a little bit, that'll open the running game up. That's going to be that's going to be the question. Can Clemson's receivers, make some plays down the field? Can Clemson be explosive in the passing game? If they can do that, it'll open up some running lanes, and Shipley could very well have a big day. Yeah, this is another thing that I meant to mention this at the top, and I started talking about the dog. Somebody asked me about the dog. I broke out of my monologue faster than I was planning to, but yeah, Travis, I do not expect Jordan Travis to be 100% healthy when he comes in here this weekend. He was in pain when he left the field Saturday. I mean, you could tell. I get it. It's his non-throwing shoulder. But he was not comfortable. That thing was hurting him, man. And, they did what they did at halftime, and he came out and he was fine. But you get to him a couple times and put him down on that shoulder, and it's liable to be hurting him again. They have absolutely, I already talked about it. They got to get pressure on him. You cannot let him sit back there and get comfortable and find a rhythm. You've got to keep him uncomfortable. If you can do that, he'll get rattled. He has shown in the past he'll get rattled if you put enough pressure on him. And that's got to be one of the biggest focal points of the defense going in. You got to get pressure on him. Our defense looks better than FSU's defense. Will be fun to watch either way. We have to finish in the red zone. Can't have another game like Tennessee. I've been pleased with the play of Clemson's defense the last two games. Not so much in the Duke game, but the last two games, I thought they played much better. Outside of, I thought they'd be getting more pressure on the quarterback. I thought they'd have more than 2 or 3 sacks or whatever it is they got right now. With Clemson is every year Clemson as a team ranks right up there at the top in the country when it comes to sacks. And we've not seen that this year. We knew defensive end was going to be a question going in. Could Maskell be that guy that could get pressure on the quarterback? He only has 2 career sacks coming into the season. XT hasn't played a whole heck of a lot the past 2 years. TJ Parker's shown that he's capable of doing it, but he needs some help. Wes is going to have to scheme up some blitzes to get some pressure on Travis more than likely. And they need more pressure from the interior. There needs to be a little bit more push from the middle. I'm not saying the defensive tackles have been bad, don't get me wrong, but I'd like to see them be a little bit more disruptive than they have been so far. There you go. And Zach, he's always on top of it. He is working on an app for Death Valley Domain that I talked about earlier. Yeah, for those of you who don't know, we've started putting a few things behind a paywall. We tried to keep the price down as much as we could. It's $4.99 a month, or I think $49.99 a year. We're going to put most of the recruiting stuff there for now, and this is the time of the year when it's about to pick up. It's about to pick up. Gonna have some lot of visitors on hand this weekend, including the top player in the state. This right here. Sarian says the mobile QB is still kryptonite for the Florida State defense. This is what I was trying to get across earlier. Cade Klubnik has to be a factor in the running game, not just throwing the ball, in the running game. He absolutely has to rush more than 50 yards in this game, maybe upwards of 75. He has got to be a factor. His legs have to be a factor. And not just 2, 3, 4 times when the protection breaks down and he takes off. I'm talking about designed runs where they're getting him the ball out in space. Let him roll out and throw on the run some too. I think I've been saying we need to see more of that as well. But yeah, I am 100% in agreement with this. You've got to get Klubnik involved, his legs involved. You've got to make them account for that. Jermaine says if Clemson protects the ball, they get the dub, the defense will hold. That will be the biggest thing, or one of the two, three biggest things for that offense. You gotta hold on to the ball. You can't be throwing pick sixes. Just can't do it. Not in this game. Again, I talked about it earlier. You're gonna have to live with some interceptions with Klubnik. He's gonna throw picks. He's just a guy that's gonna take chances, even after he gets more experienced. He's gonna throw picks, but he's got to know when not to take those chances. You just can't make those kind of critical mistakes like a pick six in a game of this magnitude. And on the flip side, Clemson needs to keep doing what they did Saturday and force some turnovers. We touched on it a bunch leading into the Florida Atlantic game. Clemson had lost the turnover margin in, 7 out of 9 games, and they had lost 4 of those games. I tend to agree with Dabo Swinney when he says if they can win the turnover margin or keep it even, he likes their chances. And I tend to agree with him. If they can win the turnover margin, I like their chances. Dude says he need Bo to have a big game. I think Stellato goes off. Kid wants it. Yes, Stellato wants it, man. You can see it. They need Bo to, contribute in this game. He can't have one catch for 10 yards or whatever it was. He's got to be a factor. I'm not saying he needs to have 100 yards, but he's got to be a factor. At some point, they're going to need Adam Randall to be the guy that he was pre-ACL injury. They're going to need him. He's not been the same since the injury. He just looks timid at times, especially now that Cole Turner's out. Which, the fact that Cole Turner was playing that many more snaps than Randall speaks volumes about where Randall is right now and how he performed in fall camp. If you catch my drift, it's mind blowing that Turner's starting over Randall and playing twice the snaps in the season opener. But they're going to need Randall to, get it going. They need Bo to contribute. They need another big game from Tyler Brown. They need Anton. They need all them guys, man. They need them all. Because I don't think Clemson's got that one guy right now that you can call that alpha in that room who could kind of take over a game late in the third quarter and catch four balls on a pivotal drive when you got to have a touchdown. They need it to be a collaborative effort. Everybody pitching in and Klubnik spreading it around. I tell you, for me, who they need to have a big game this weekend, the guy that the light finally needs to come on for, Brenny Stool. That's the guy who could pose a ton of matchup problems for Florida State. He's just got to do it. Did I find a jet in my yard? Is that not a bizarre story or what? Guy shows up at the airport, man. I mean, at the hospital, having ejected out of a jet. They can't find a jet. I saw a tweet from a local news station here where I live earlier. It says, source told ABC 15 Monday evening that military ground crews have found parts and debris associated with the F-35 Lightning jet just off Indiantown Road in Florence County, which is not too far from me. See somebody with a plane under their carport, man, you know where it came from. A number of wide receivers have their chance now with Turner out for the year. Yeah, I agree. Curious if that maybe changes their mind about holding Tink or Noble. Probably not, but it's at least worth putting out there. Again, I think best case scenario, man, Adam Randall finds it. Whatever's going on with him, he gets it corrected, and he's doing what he's capable of doing. Because right now, he's just a lot of times when he's out there, man, he looks like he's running in quicksand. It's just does not even closely resemble the guy I watched in high school. It is just bizarre. I get it. He's coming off. He had an torn ACL last year. He had another issue with the other knee, after last season that he had to have worked on. So he's had both knees worked on. I understand. Maybe it's just taking him longer to get back. I don't know. He just does not look like what I expected. And they could really benefit from having a guy with his kind of talent right now. Tyler Brown, though. Tyler Brown. That's who I think is going to be the biggest benefactor. Turner being out. I think you're going to see Williams outside more and Tyler Brown in the slot. How hurt is Jordan Travis? Yeah, he touched on this a minute ago. He left the game against Boston College late in that second quarter. He was in very obvious pain. It was his non-throwing shoulder. I mean, he was very uncomfortable. Come back after halftime and he come back in and looked like himself. So, I'm sure they shot him up or whatever, gave him a pain injection. I don't know exactly how injured he is. They're not going to put that out there because if it's something that's going to linger around for a little while, they don't want opponents to know about it. But it's absolutely something worth monitoring. If he lands on it wrong again or something, who knows? Do I think Travis would be one-dimensional with the non-throwing shoulder injury? That would be a huge plus. It depends on exactly how serious that is. If it's something that lingers, maybe they do have to keep him more stationary than they otherwise would have liked to. You absolutely don't want to have him running around out there and risk hurting it further or doing something where he won't be able to play, because you got to have him. Without him, they're in trouble, because I'm not convinced any of those guys behind him would be ready to come in and win in Death Valley. I think the answer to this, is kind of based on exactly how injured that shoulder was, and if it's something that's going to hang around for a few days, week. Because again, man, he looked like he was in pain. When it first happened, I was like, dang, he's probably out the rest of the day. Because, just the amount of pain you could tell he was in. but he came back at the halftime and he looked fine. But again, come down on that thing the wrong way one time, you never know. And if it's something he's still dealing with Saturday, yeah, they'll have to be cautious with him, I would think. XT gets pretty consistent pressure from what I've seen, just not the Superman killing QBs a lot of us were expecting. Yeah, Clemson's been getting some pressure. They're just not finishing like I thought. They don't have the sack numbers I thought they would. And some of that's got to do with opponents getting the ball out quick, but not all of it. My thing with XT, I think XT's pass rush has been fine for the most part. To me, it's just he's not been what I thought he'd be in run defense. He kind of gets pushed around some, and that's been from weaker competition. Everyone wants Maskell to swap for Parker, and I think it's actually XT that should go to a third down pass rush role. On the depth chart, is Parker is actually Thomas's backup, not Maskell's. He's on that side, but I have seen him line up on both sides, so it doesn't really matter. But I would not say I can't say I agree with using Thomas just in third down pass rushing situations. I think he's a better end than that. But I think you got to find a way to mix and match with those three guys and maybe try to have Maskell on the field for what he, in situations for what he does best. And it's not going to always work out, but XT's strength's absolutely rushing the passer, make no mistake. I don't think you could just limit him to third downs. But I'm all for Parker being on the field more. I mean, I'm all for that. I think it was Jeff that suggested earlier they need to move Rook outside and let him play end. Seeing Sadler in front of the mic for the first time, I thought he was an assistant coach with two kids and a third on the way. He does not look like a guy 2 years out of high school. No. He looks like a wily old veteran, man, like he's been around for a while. Yeah, I tend to agree with that. Seems like the linebackers get caught up in the muck a lot. Is this a design issue? Seems like not very exotic blitz packages. I think you'll have your answer to that question after this weekend. No, I've not seen very many exotic blitz packages yet. That might be by design, though. I don't know. I thought Carter and Trotter played much better in the last two games than they did against Duke. But yeah, they do get caught up in the muck sometimes. They do. But as far as the blitz packages, I think you'll have your answer to that after this week. They got Brennan still in the slot running wide receiver screen. He should be running the seam. They got him running wide receiver screen because his route running on anything down the field's piss poor. Or it was in the first two games. Again, I didn't really watch him Saturday, and I hadn't gone back and watched the game to look at it. So I can't really comment on what he did Saturday. But man, his route running in those first two games, particularly that Duke game, it was just not very good. Not very good at all. Disappointing to see, actually. Here you go, Kelly. Jeff says 2013 won't happen. FSU is good, but they don't compare to that 2013 team. Hey, that was a team full of studs. Ruby Ridge says, do you think Dabo is training Riley up to take over since he is on the sidelines? I bet Saban retires in a couple of years. Riley's on the sidelines by choice. That's where he wants to be. He's always been on the sidelines at his previous stops. He doesn't like calling games from the booth. He likes to be down there with the players. I am of the opinion that Dabo Swinney's not going to follow Nick Saban at Alabama. Some people will disagree with that. Others, may be of the same opinion. I think whoever follows Nick Saban is entering a no-win situation. No matter what they do, it will not be good enough. I don't know why Dabo would want to leave his baby, something he built, to go take over something that Saban built. It would never be his. And I know people always say, well, Alabama's home. Yeah, I don't know if it is or not anymore. Is Alabama his home anymore? I'm not sure it is. To his kids, home is here. They grew up here. They've been here almost 20 years now. So I'm not convinced that Dabo Swinney's going to be the guy that follows Nick Saban, whether he retires next year, 2 years from now, or 3 years from now. Now, when the guy that follows Saban gets fired because he can't live up to the expectations of the fan base that were put in place because of the Saban years, maybe then Dabo chooses to go clean up the mess. I just don't see him following Nick Saban, man. I just don't see it. I think he's smarter than that. And I'm not convinced that he leaves Clemson to go to Alabama anyways. He's got his blood, sweat, tears into that football program. And he could go to Alabama and win 3 consecutive national titles, and it'll never be his program. It will never be his. And I don't think Garrett Riley is here long enough to be the next head coach. I think Dabo's around at least another 5 years, and I think Garrett Riley's gone within 2, 3 at the longest, assuming his offense performs the way we think it's going to. SC Country, Clemson wins this game if the defense shows up. I don't think people are giving that Clemson defense much credit. Yeah, I mean, I'm telling you, I think they've played much better the past 2 weeks. Much better. They gave up the 2 late touchdowns to Florida Atlantic, but that was mostly 3rd string guys and some 4th string guys. It wasn't the 1s or the 2s, if I'm remembering right. At least one of those touchdowns were the 3rd, 4th string guys. I think the pass defense has looked pretty solid so far. Not a lot to complain about outside of they got to find a way to quit letting those running backs, sneak out in the flats and pick up chunk plays that way, or get beat or bust on a wheel route. They got to find a way to improve there. But outside of that, I've been mostly pleased with what I've seen from the defense. Like I talked about earlier, I'd like to see them get to the quarterback a little bit more. And I think getting pressure on Jordan Travis is going to be key. Can't let him sit back there and get comfortable. Can't let him get in a rhythm, especially if that shoulder's still bothering him. You really got to put pressure on him then. This game may come down to special teams play. Well, that would not bode well for Clemson, probably, Jermaine. That might not bode well for Clemson if it comes down to a special teams play, unless it's a punt return by Tyler Brown. Oh, let's see here. Peter Woods has to play a lot. Peter Woods has already been playing a lot. played 16 snaps Saturday. Root played 27. But yeah, I mean, Woods is going to play, man. He's disruptive. You know, is he going to play the exact amount of snaps that Rook or Tyler Davis plays? Probably not, but I don't think there's going to be that big of a gap. They like trying to keep those guys fresh and rotating them in and out. It's a good way to do it. But if you look at Parker, you know, TJ Parker at the end, he played 28 snaps, one more than Maskell. Heck, Denoff played 28 snaps in that second half, but yeah, I'm of the opinion that you know Clemson's going to play a bunch of those defensive tackles. They want to keep them fresh, and Woods is going to be the third guy. He ain't going to start, but he'll be that third guy. He'll be the third. He'll be the first guy off the bench. He's been disruptive too when he's in the game. He's been every bit as advertised. The dude's got us a prediction. We win as long as we don't end up seeing our DBs and safeties back chasing Florida State. Keep that ass in front, please. Yeah, you gotta. Hey, we touched on this at the top, man. That was one of the first things we talked about. You know, you gotta. Your pass defense is gonna have to be up to snuff. Again, I feel good about Nate Wiggins. You know, whoever he's on, I feel good about him being able to cover that guy. Whoever Sheridan Jones is on, I'm a little less confident. Not that I'm saying he's a bad player. I just think that highly of Wiggins. But Johnny Wilson and Keon Coleman, and for that matter, Jaheim Bell, those guys are too good to just completely shut down. You just got to hope to contain them and not hurt you too many times and limit the damage because they're going to get there. It's just got to me, you got to limit the explosive plays. Like you say, keep that ass in front, man. Keep it in front of you. Don't let them behind you. Don't let them beat you over the top. Cade needs to work with Eric Backett or somebody on perfecting his slide. That's not a bad idea, Sarian. That's not a bad idea at all. Chad says FSU's floor for the season got a lot lower over the weekend. I think it's fair to wonder, did they get caught looking ahead to this game because they got off to a slow start, let Boston College hang around a little bit, then they kind of pulled away, made it was 31-10 at one point, and then they kind of let up, started getting sloppy, started playing sloppy, started making mistakes, let Boston College right back in it. And if Boston College does not commit 18 penalties, they might very well win that game. But I agree, man. I think the floor got lower this weekend. I've been saying since their week one win against LSU, let's pump the brakes on this being a national title team or a top 4 team. I want to see more. I'm not saying they won't be. I'm just saying let's just pump the brakes before we anoint them that. Seeing some people, I see Big Mick says it's still psychological with Randall. The dude says Woods is going to show out Saturday. Trevor Barkley, he says Tyler Brown has the biggest game of his career this weekend. Well, I mean, he ain't played but 3 games. I mean, I'm just kidding. Tickle Tiger says that sideways pass needs to be thrown away. Hey, I warned y'all. I told y'all the screen was going to still be a big part of things in Garrett Riley's offense. I mean, you knew it by watching him at TCU and some of his offenses before that. I don't really mind all the screens if that's what we're talking about, the sideways pass. They're effective when they're blocked properly. Clemson's problem has been getting the perimeter, blocking out on the perimeter on a consistent basis. You know what I mean? And I think they've also tried to not show a lot the past 2 weeks. Don't think they held a ton back against Duke. I mean, I don't think you get down 21-7 and start holding stuff back. I do think there are some things we have not seen yet. Take Jason in a foot race against Round. Hey, well, I can run. I can't do a lot of physical stuff no more, but I can run. I think I can still run anyways. I don't know. I am pushing 50. I might not be able to do that anymore either. Definitely Conley. I'll outrun Conley. Tell you that. I don't know about Qualk, man. He's younger. He's a young cat. I saw that Conley and Vanderbilt race. No competition. Dean Wilson says it's his birthday Saturday. Will be the birthday present for Clemson to win the game. Chad says a wounded Travis might not run or risk a hit and slide early for less yards. Yeah, we touched on this earlier. If that shoulder or whatever's wrong with it still lingering around this weekend, it might make him a little more stationary than they otherwise would want him to be. And I think that's an advantage for Clemson. Absolutely. It just depends on, what, if he's still feeling it. When it first happened, it looked serious because it looked like he was in excruciating pain, to be honest. You could tell he was hurting. So it might not. I mean, it might be one of those things that he's still feeling come Saturday. Here's an excellent point from Jeff, man. I didn't even think about this. We were talking about the backs. That's been an area that Clemson's got burned a few times here. First 3 games, running backs catching passes out in the flat or busting on a wheel route. If Travis is still hurt, they might have to leave those guys in there to pass protect some. Oh, the dude's got us a score prediction. Tigers 24, Florida State 14. He's with me. Dabo ain't going to Bama. Won't happen. I'm not saying never. I just don't think he's going to follow Saban. It would be like following Spurrier at Florida, Joe Pop, Penn State. I mean, you're putting yourself in a bad spot. Exactly. Follow the coach who followed the coach. That's exactly what I was talking about earlier. He might be the guy that replaces the guy that replaced Saban. Big Mick says Helms and Tyson look more comfortable in the pocket versus Cade. Yeah, look, we'll have to agree to disagree, man. By the time Helms and Tyson got in that game, they were playing against a very gassed, very outmanned defense. It's I don't. If you got to rely on Paul Tyson to win games for Clemson, they're gonna be in trouble. Based on what I've seen, he holds on to the ball too long, man. He drops his shoulder when he throws. There's a reason he's been a career backup. How do you grade overall freshman contribution so far? Hey, man, I said all along that some of those guys in that 2023 class were vastly underrated, and I'm kind of patting myself on the back here. It looks like I'm turning out to be right on a lot of those guys. I tooted Tyler Brown's horn for a long time. Same thing with T.J. Parker. I did it a little bit with Khalil Barnes, not quite like to the level of the other two guys. I was always very high on Jay Haynes, the running back. We haven't seen a lot of him yet, but I am very high on him. I think Noble Johnson's going to be really good. He's another guy that I really liked in that class. And then all the other defensive linemen, Peter Woods, Vic Burley, Fallon Green, the interior guys. I think they hit it out of the park on all three of those guys. I think AJ Hoffler's got the potential to be an elite level pass rusher. He might need a year, but I think he's got that potential. I think David Ojebi, we'll see on him. He kind of reminds me of XT a little bit. His body type, maybe he's more of a tweener than a true defensive end. But I think they hit on pretty much every one of those defensive linemen. Again, see what they got. Khalil Barnes. I like most of the guys they signed in the secondary. I think Avian Terrell is going to be really good. Who else do we got? I think at least two of those offensive linemen are going to be really good. I think Harris Sewell is going to be good. I think Ian Reed's got a very high ceiling, and if Zach Owens will put into work, he's got a very high ceiling. He just needs to kind of transform his body and shed some weight and get his body in game shape for next year because he's got talent. He's too heavy right now. I love all three of those guys they signed at offensive line. I think they hit on about every one of those guys, man. And you don't hear people say that a lot. I love Azina. I think he's got all the tools. I don't think he's ready to play right now, but I think he's got all the tools. And if, especially with Garrett Riley developing, you give him a year, maybe two, I think he's going to be the next really good Clemson quarterback. I'm trying to think if I've missed somebody, but if I had to grade them so far, the freshmen that are really playing, I give them an A, man. That's me. I think they've been really good. The guys that have, made the biggest contributions. Do you think with the noon kickoff that will help Clemson? You know what? I don't know. I think sometimes the noon kick can favor the home team a little bit, or it can help favor the visiting team a little bit. It just depends on the day and the team and the situation. But I am of the opinion that Boston College kind of caught Florida State looking a little bit ahead next week to this, or looking a little bit ahead to this week. And Florida State played a noon game at Boston College on the road last weekend. I think it's a possibility that it gets them 2 weekends in a row, because they got off to a slow start last weekend up there in Boston. I think it's a possibility, but I wouldn't bet on it. I think this game's been circled forever for this Florida State team. This is the game they want. This is the game they want. They have not beaten Clemson since, 2014. And then a couple of those have been blowouts. They went down there and smoked them in Tallahassee. So I think you're going to get their best shot. I'll be a little surprised if they come out flat. And I think that's what you're asking me. Do I think the noon kick will maybe have Florida State coming out a little flat? I lean towards saying no, especially since they did a little bit last week in a noon kick at Boston College. And I also think they know they got caught looking ahead a little bit. Biggest threat for FSU after Clemson game might be Syracuse. Schrader might tear them up on the ground like Castellanos did. Tyler Van Dyke isn't a run threat the same way from Miami. Hey, you know that Syracuse team is got my attention, man. I'm a big fan of Garrett Schrader. Do I think Clemson's ACC championship run is over if they lose this weekend? If Clemson loses this weekend, yeah, I don't think they end up in Charlotte. No, I mean it's still possible, but I don't think they will. And they're only on a 1-year run, right? They didn't win it until they didn't win the ACC in 2021. Philip says, seems like the best way to defeat Clemson is to get out early. On top of them, that would help nullify their running game and forcing K to try to win. If I'm an imposing head coach, defensive coordinator, I'm trying to force Clemson into some early mistakes, shutting down the run, or I'm keying on the run and making Cade and those receivers beat me over the top. How would you rate Woodaz play this year? He's had some big INTs. Just wondering. I think Woodaz has been outstanding. I haven't really seen him. Me personally, I've not seen him have a bad play yet. Doesn't mean he's not had one. I've just not seen it. Man, he's had a bunch of good ones. You know, there's another kid that came in here very underrated, and they have developed him well. Woodaz is he's already making his mark on that defense this year. Sapp has been looking pretty good. Surprised he hasn't seen more snaps over Jake. No, I'm not surprised that Sapp's not getting snaps over Jake, but it would not shock me, if Brennan Stoole's route running doesn't improve and he doesn't become more of a factor in the passing game, it would not shock me at all to see Sage start getting, some more opportunities in the passing game. Man, look at there. We have run way over tonight. We've gone almost an hour and a half. Had a feeling we'd run long. Again, it's Florida State week. You do what you got to do. Don't forget, hit that subscribe button if you've already done it. Thank you, man. We appreciate it. Also, like the videos. And if if you're one of those that follows my recruiting stuff, yes, I know we have, we put it behind a paywall now. We tried to keep the price down. It's called Death Valley Domain. It's $4.99 a month. Now we're trying to find ways that will allow us to keep doing what we do, man. That's the name of the game. We tried to price it as fair as we could. We didn't want to have to do it, but at some point you have to, and that's where we are. Again, $4.99 a month. All the recruiting stuff's going to be there outside of recruiting interviews and any mailbags. Those won't be behind a paywall. Interviews won't be behind a paywall, but all the Tiger Tracker stuff, it's going to be behind the paywall. Some pregame and postgame analysis stuff will be behind the paywall, but the rest of it will still be free. Appreciate everybody that tuned in tonight, man. We had another good crowd, a lot of interaction. I love it when you guys get in here and interact, man. That's when I started this thing, last year, whenever it was, a year ago. That's all this was about, was finding a way to get on here and interact with fans. I used to just go live on Facebook and just talk and answer questions for a little while. And, we turned it into an hour-long show where we let the fan drive the conversation, man. You don't get many shows where the fan drives the conversation the entire hour. Outside of a little 5-minute monologue I might do at the top. And I try to keep them under 5 minutes, to be honest. I'm not the best public speaker. So I appreciate everybody that's tuned in tonight again, sticking around. We've run an hour and a half, 90 minutes tonight. I think this is the longest we've ever gone. And again, we've had a good crowd. One more before we get out of here. Late one here. C. Wavy. Would be nice for Clemson to actually play 2 halves this Saturday, even if they lose, as long as they put effort in. This year kind of feels like a rebuild year, new QB, new OC. I kind of felt that way to start with. Kind of coming off it out a little bit. We'll find out Saturday, though, exactly who this team is. I think we're going to find out exactly who both these teams are, to be quite honest. Because I think we still don't know exactly who Florida State is yet. But yeah, it would be nice to see Clemson put 4 quarters together of complimentary football. Now they've not done it yet. Something they'll need to do Saturday. Absolutely, man. Again, appreciate everybody tuning in. If you enjoy this, check us out. Me and Zach come here and do go live every other night except Monday and Friday. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, same time, 7 p.m. We come in here and do the same thing. Just shoot the bull for about an hour. Then Friday, we got our pregame show, 4:30, live at Magnetic South. Planning on this being the biggest show of the season so far. Even I'm going to be there. Come see me. I've not made one yet. Not since, I've not made one of these pregame shows yet. So this will be my first one. I did the off-season shows, but not been able to make it the pregame show yet. I will be in attendance. All 3 of us will be. Come see us out at Magnetic South. We'll be there at 4:30. Lots of swag to give away. Zach's got all Clemson Tiger stuff. T-shirts, hats, koozies, pins, little footballs, all kind of stuff, man. I can't even remember what it all is off the top of my head, but he's got a bunch of swag. Come see us, 4:30, Magnetic South, Friday. Again, appreciate everybody tuning in. Check us out, allclemsontigers.com. We'll have you covered all through the week and have you good and ready by the time noon rolls around and Florida State gets in here Saturday. See y'all next time.